Hey, everybody. I am not in Santa Clara, but that's of little importance because one person, much more important to me than me, to the 49ers, is back, and that is Jauan Jennings. After not being on the practice field since July 27th, he returned to the practice field on Monday as the 49ers start really their main preparations to face the Seattle Seahawks week 1 up in Seattle. So this is kind of a different week, the first week of the season for the 49ers. They consider this Monday kind of a bonus practice, and then they go into the usual routine of having a day off on Tuesday and then practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They'll travel to Seattle on Saturday and then play that game. But Jauan Jennings has been the talk of training camp, and for maybe not all the right reasons. In fact, very few of the right reasons. I started off training camp with the reports that he was unhappy with his contract, wanted a new deal, and he was going to ask for a trade if he didn't get that new contract. That is something that did happen, according to John Lynch, who said that some time ago, Jauan Jennings did ask for a trade. The 49ers aren't going to comply with that trade request because they need him on the football team, especially now where that wide receiver position is and has been during training camp. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk going to be missing some time, probably 5, 6 games, 6, 7 games, something like that. And Demarcus Robinson serving a 3-game suspension. So the 49ers need Jauan Jennings. However, this calf injury that he had during the offseason program, it flared up on July 27th, and he hasn't practiced since. So that's more than 5 weeks, basically 5 weeks and 1 day. So what would that be? 36 days that he did not practice, but he was back out there on Monday. And the only 49ers player who wasn't out at practice, according to multiple reports, according to everybody who was there, is Jordan Watkins, the rookie wide receiver who got off to such a promising start in training camp, looked good with that 50-yard reception early in the first preseason game against the Denver Broncos and their number one offense. But later in that game had the high ankle sprain, so he did not practice. But my colleague Jennifer Lee Chan and all the other reporters who were out there observed and reported on the fact that Jauan Jennings is out there, is watching the videos. He looked like had a good smile on his face, and a lot of the players, his teammates, very happy to see him out there. So we didn't get any answers as far as Jauan Jennings speaking with the media and kind of clarifying his position and just what his physical state is, as well as where his mental state is, still as of this point not having that contract that he desires. So maybe we'll find out a little bit more later in the week. Just for context, when training camp started, I did request to talk to him every day of training camp, and was told he would talk next week, and that next week was before he got injured. So he got injured on the Sunday, and that next week never came because the 49ers don't allow their injured players, or they discourage, I think, their injured players from talking to the media. So apparently he will be available to talk this week, but if Monday is any indication, all signs are that he will be available and he'll play in the game on Sunday. And so the only player that it looks like won't be available for this game will be Jordan Watkins, the rookie wide receiver for the 49ers, still dealing with the high ankle sprain. And by the way, I hope it's a lot more noisy for me than it is for you. I'm at an airport across the country, 3,000 miles away, so I'm doing my best here to kind of keep you up to date on what's happening with the 49ers. But Jordan Watkins, the only player not out on the field. So that means it certainly looks like a big thumbs up for Dominic Pooney, for Upton Stout, for Kalia Davis, for Russell Gage, and every other player, Michael Williams, CJ West, all the players who've been dealing with some sort of injury situations, including Jauan Jennings. Now, what does that mean for the wide receiver position? Oh, by the way, Kendrick Bourne did take part in a tryout for the 49ers, so they worked him out to see what kind of physical state he is in. As of when I'm recording this, no word yet on how that went, but I would think with Jauan Jennings back in the fold and maybe his situation kind of clearing up, other than the contract situation, I would think that might mean that the 49ers won't be as urgently pursuing Kendrick Bourne than if they didn't know what the heck was going on with Jennings, and he decided to hold in or not, or to withhold his services. So the way the receiver position shakes out right now for the 49ers on Sunday would be like this: Ricky Pearsall and Jauan Jennings, the clear starters for the team. And then probably the number 3 receiver would be Russell Gage, who returned to practice. And then Sky Moore would also be a player who could play the slot and see some action on offense. I'm thinking maybe 12 to 20 snaps, something in that range. And he'll also be the return specialist for the 49ers. So that would be the 4 receivers that I would assume would be up. And then the 4th guy or the 5th guy would more than likely, I mean, my guess would be Robbie Chosen, a veteran who looked good in training camp, really started to come on. He has experience. He's been in the league. This is his second summer with the 49ers. Didn't make the 53-man, but he is back on the practice squad. So the guys that they could bump up from the practice squad, assuming Jordan Watkins is unavailable for this game, and I think he will be, on the practice squad, for instance, have Robbie Chosen, Malik Turner, Junior Bergen, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So I would assume, one of those guys will be bumped up to give the 49ers 5 receivers on the roster, on their 48-man roster for Sunday. But I would think that the main 3 guys who will see action and who will play the bulk of the snaps on offense for the 49ers would be Pearsall, Jennings, and Russell Gage. So that's one of the issues that's been cleared up for the 49ers. The other thing is just, what is the agreement? Why did Jauan Jennings come back? Was it just the calf keeping him out, or was he disgruntled with the contract as well? Did that keep him out? I mean, quite clearly, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, believed that there were multiple things going on with him, just the way they were talking last week about him. So, if the reports are true, what Tim Kawakami said last week was that Jennings was seeking a contract somewhere north of $20 million. I think that's a non-starter for the 49ers. I think that the fan base would probably agree that's too much. Now, should he get more than what he was scheduled to make? Absolutely. And he holds that right to try to get a new contract. People always say, well, player has to fulfill his contract, but it works both ways. The contracts in the NFL are not guaranteed. They're not a fait accompli. Whatever they sign, that's what they're going to get, like other sports. Teams have the right to release a player who is underperforming, and so the players have the right to do what they can to get more money if they're overperforming. So we'll see how this week transpires, and if there is something that can be done with Jauan Jennings' contract. I'm under the belief that the 49ers are quite willing to work with him on an extension that will lock him up beyond this season. As far as the other injury situation, I mentioned Russell Gage. That's a big one to get him back, the likely 3rd receiver for the 49ers on Sunday. Upton Stout, getting him back on the field, that's also a big thing, because Upton Stout was one of the stars. He was the best rookie in training camp for the first 3 weeks of practices, and now he is back with the team. And what kind of role will he take on? Will he be the nickelback? I would fully expect him to be the nickelback in this game, with Chase Lucas being the 3rd corner on the outside, as well as the backup nickelback on the inside. And of course, the rookies who missed sometimes, the defensive lineman, Michael Williams and CJ West. Fully expect Michael Williams to be a starter, and that both he and CJ West will be part of that rotation. Kalia Davis returns. I think he was probably the most impressive defensive tackle the 49ers had during training camp before his injury. I think he's a starter caliber, but then the bigger one, the guy that at a spot where the 49ers really can't afford to lose anybody as far as the depth part of it goes, Dominic Pooney. When he went down with the PCL injury against the Raiders, it didn't look good. The 49ers were concerned that they would lose him for the opener, but now he's back on the practice field. He was trending very well last week, just how he was running, how he was looking, how he was improving. So that's a big one for the 49ers. So bottom line is, We've talked a lot about the 49ers' depth or lack thereof with all of the injuries. Now they're about as healthy as they've been since training camp opened. So that's a very good sign for them pointing into week one. Okay, now you might not care, but I'll tell you why I'm here I'm in Boston, Logan Airport. Yeah, my daughter finished school last year on the East Coast, and now she's decided to live in the Boston area with three roommates that she met in college. So I had a quick turnaround. I have a speaking engagement on Tuesday, so took a red eye from SFO to Boston, landed at 8:30 in the morning Boston time on Monday, got her stuff out of storage about 45 minutes away, had to make two trips, and now I'm on a flight home from Boston at around 8 p.m. Boston time. So basically over a 24-hour period, I'll be on a plane for 12 hours and on the ground for 12 hours. So I'm heading back to San Francisco, and that's the update from the 49ers and my kind of hectic travel schedule. So thanks for watching, and that is it for now.